We are live. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome to the live stream. What is it called to this week? Applying Zen wisdom to everyday life. Well, that may be important. I'm glad to be here. And I guess there's people already in the chat. So I'm going to go through the chat, see who is here. If you haven't already, let us know in the chat where you are living. Looks like there's a new feature here in StreamYard. I'm just going to see what this does. See if that does anything. Oh, okay. I see. You can put the guest chat into the feed here. Good. Let's see. So, wow, let's go back. Let's see. It's 12 p.m., 12:01 p.m. Pacific time. It looked like at 10:30, 1 a.m. Helena said, "Good evening, all. Sending greetings from South Africa." Helena, are you still here? That was an hour and a half ago. Usually Cesare is here pretty early. Cesare is here and says, hello, everyone. Okay, Helena says, life has been absurdly strange lately. And while I eat kimchi with my fruit salad, I wonder if it can get any stranger. Nom, nom, nom. But I don't know why the fruit salad, and maybe it's because kimchi is a Korean side dish, but I'm having a memory from my first 90-day solo retreat. No, it wasn't solo. 90-day Kilche. So this is 90 days of retreat practicing with people. It's my first one. I think I was only practicing for 6 months or so and jumped into this 3-month retreat. Anyways, there was a part of the retreat where I was really missing the food from where I came from. So I was living at Seattle at the time. I guess you could say American food. I don't even know what that means, though. Anyways, most of the meals were quite simple at this 90-day retreat. Luckily, there were some donors who would give food to the retreat as a special treat. So one of those foods that were donated was fruit salad, and this is why I'm thinking about it, Helena. And, at that point, we were just eating basically rice every day. So, I mean, rice for breakfast with kimchi, tofu, rice for lunch. And the soup sometimes was very simple, like mung bean soup with just mung beans and broth, nothing else. Maybe tofu on the side and kimchi, of course. So one evening, somebody donated some fruit salad. So I'm thinking, man, this is my chance to get something I've been craving from back home. So if you've done the formal meals in a retreat in the Quantum School of Zen, you know that whatever you put into your bowl, you have to eat. So one of the reasons is to kind of be mindful of what we're taking, mindful of our energy. How much food do we actually need? So, of course, when the fruit salad comes, I pile my bowl, the biggest one, with fruit salad. And then I took a bite, and it was a little different from the fruit salad I was used to back in the United States. So usually when I think of fruit salad, it's chopped fruit with whipped cream. Now, this fruit salad had chopped fruit, but it did not have whipped cream. The white stuff happened to be mayonnaise. And when I first tasted it, first in my mind, it's going to be so good. And then I tasted it. Oh, what is this? And, I had to eat the whole bowl. So I ended up getting very sick that night. Anyways, thank you, Helena, for helping me remind me of that. Michael's here. Hey, Michael. Ooh, Michael donated a super sticker. I'm getting more familiar with them. I believe Adam was the one who kind of like started this out. Thank you, Michael, for your support. Really appreciate this. Keeps everything moving. Let's see. Adam says hello. Mr. Jet Mingo is here. Hi, all. Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Eric is from Houston. Helena says that she's still here. Michael, yeah, the expectation is so sweet. Right. It was a life lesson, right? You really think something's going to be a certain way and it has nothing to do with reality, then you're disappointed. I've made a lot of videos about that recently, if you've been following my channel. Let's see who else is here. John Sweet is here. Now, let's see. John is earlier than usual and then says, oops, I'll be back in about 15 minutes. All right, John. And Greg's here. Hey, Greg, good to see you. Saw Greg this morning and John this morning, actually, practicing with us. Okay, so maybe we can jump in here and talk about today's teaching. I know I did title this Applying Zen Wisdom to Everyday Life. We could have probably a lot of ideas about what that means. But if you've been joining these live streams recently, I need to get my book. I'll be right back. I've been finding stories and koans in this book. The Whole World is a Single Flower. This is 365 koans for everyday life. I think that's important to say, and we'll get into why. So this is a book with koans from traditional koans from Korea. Zen Master Sung Song has a few that he made up here. But I keep finding stories, situations, interactions that stand out, and I've been putting them into the live stream lately. So we have another koan to look at. By the way, if you haven't already, let us know in the chat where you are living. My name's Jason. This is the live stream here. We're going to talk about applying Zen wisdom to everyday life, which makes me think about wisdom. Now, I know I've made a video specifically about this, right? There's this innate wisdom that all human beings have. So that means understanding our original nature. And then there's this wisdom that we develop. So sometimes in Buddhism, you hear this teaching about skillful means, learning how to use words, thinking, name, form, anything in this moment. We can use it to help. So let's take a look at this koan here. Let me get situated. John, Oklahoma City. Hey, John, I forgot to tell you, my brother no longer lives in Oklahoma. He's moved to Arizona. That's a whole nother story. I'll talk to you about it later. So I'm going to share this story. If you worked with koans with me, you probably ran into this. And I think what I'll do first is to read this story and then talking about wisdom. So how do we use wisdom in everyday life? And I picked this koan out because I call this the human relationship koan. It's called Doksang Carrying His Bowls. One day, Doksang came into the Dharma room, carrying his bowls. The housemaster, So Bung, said, "Old master, the bell has not yet been rung, and the drum has not been struck. Where are you going carrying your bowls?" At this, Toksang returned to the master's room. So Sobang, the housemaster, told the head monk, Amdu, what happened. Amdu said, Great Master Toksang does not understand the last word. Toksang heard this and sent for Amdu. Do you not approve of me? He demanded. Then Amdu whispered into the master's ear. Toksang was relieved. The next day on the high rostrum, making his Dharma speech, Toksang was really different from before. Amdu went to the front of the Dharma room, laughed loudly, clapped his hands, and said, Great joy. The old master has understood the last word. From now on, no one can check him. So, as you can see, this is a human relationship situation. And I think what I love about this Kongan is to show you first that just because there's a Zen temple with monks living in it, nuns, Zen masters, I think sometimes we have this idea that everything is calm and peaceful. I remember when I lived at the Providence Zen Center, I was giving a tour of the Zen Center. It's a very big Zen Center. It's on 50 acres of land. And there was a guest who was really interested in the Zen Center. And I was showing this person around. And while we were inside the building, there were two residents arguing. So I felt a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, oh, man. And then this person said, that's interesting. I thought the Zen Center would be calm and peaceful. And I said, yeah, sometimes it's like that. Right? Because wherever we have human beings, there's going to be people bumping up against each other. We can say that's the human conditioning. If I hold my own view, my own ideas, my opinions, likes and dislikes, and if you hold your own idea, your likes and dislikes, your opinions, right, we're going to run into each other. And this is really why Zen Master Sung Song created this practicing environment where we all practice together. So in Zen centers, a lot of us are living together, practicing together. If you sit any of our retreats, we're bowing together, chanting together, sitting together, walking together, eating together, right? Not like maybe some traditions where you can go off and do your own meditation and then come back later in the group for a talk. We're doing everything together. And the reason is so we do bump up against each other. That helps us see what we are holding in our own mind. And if we can perceive that, see it, we can let go or not to touch them. So yes, even in monasteries, these things happen. Mr. Jet Mango, theoretical Zen. Can 270 degrees on the Sung Song Zen circle can represent world of dreams, freedom eye, freedom world, magic world, attachment to freedom, freedom form, freedom emptiness. Yeah, let me get into that question. It's a good question. And by the way, just because I get up many questions about this, I am making a whole video on Zen Master Sung Song's Zen Circle. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. And when that becomes live, you can check it out. I have an interesting way of talking about this. I think before we get into this Kongan, it's important to talk about certain styles of teaching. Now, this style of teaching comes from Zen Master Sung Song, but also you can see how different traditions can point to different things. So the first step here that's listed is primary point. So primary point has many different names, but it's the experience before thinking. I'm going to get some props here. And since this teaching comes from Zen Master Sung Song, he would often say, if you're thinking and I'm thinking, we are separate. In fact, the whole world and ourselves are separate. But if you are not thinking and I'm not thinking, we are not separate, right? Because there's a lot of talk in spiritual traditions about becoming one, that you are one with the universe, right? It sounds poetic. But what does that actually mean? How do we experience it? Because the problem is, if we are separate from this world, if you and I are separate, this is what we call delusion. We create duality, dualistic thinking. I'm over here, you're over there. I'm good, you're bad. I like this, I don't like that, right? The whole world lives in this. And that's not good or bad, but if we believe that this is the truth, if we can't see that we created that with our own mind, we create suffering for ourselves and others. So the first point is this experience before thinking. So one name of that is primary point. Like I mentioned earlier, if I have my own ideas that I'm holding, my opinions, my likes and dislikes, and you're holding yours, we bump up against each other. But what if for one moment we just take it away, where your mind and my mind are not separate? So the way we can demonstrate this is very simple. Your mind, my mind, the stick, and the sound. That does not have I or you, good or bad, right or wrong, like or dislike, because it's an experience before thinking. So that can be called primary point, becoming one, enlightenment nature, whatever word you want to use. These words are pointing to an experience before our thoughts appear. So that's very important so we can take the next step. And the next step is truth. You know, I know so many people who want to do something, want to act in this world or in their lives. So we call that function. But in order to function, we have to see the truth of this moment because, again, everything that we're holding in our mind is a filter. So we see this whole world through a filter. I have my filter, you have your filter, and it can be anything that's a filter. It can be greed, hatred, likes and dislikes, but also we can filter this whole world through the lens of Zen. So it's still a filter. We still cannot see the truth of this moment. So this experience of primary point takes everything in our mind away. This morning, we had a reading after practice, and it mentioned the 6 dusts. So we all have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. These senses are usually clouded by some dust, some filter. So this point takes away all of those dusts, so the eyes wake up, become clear. The ears wake up, becomes clear. So nose wakes up, becomes clear. Our mind just reflects the moment as it is. So in Zen, we call that truth. So if you read any of Zen Master Sung Song's books, he's always saying the sky is blue, the tree's green, dogs barking, woof, woof, sugar is sweet, right? That sounds kind of ridiculous because human beings are usually not like that. I hear the dog barking. I don't like that sound. That sound of the dog barking is ruining my meditation. So I cannot experience peace, right? We all have this kind of mind. But if we take that away, then it's just woof, woof. Our mind and the moment are not separate. And this is how we approach sitting meditation. You don't hear the sound of the dog barking. You are the sound of the dog barking in this very moment. So once we realize this truth, then what? I've been talking a lot about this in my videos too. If you have some experience of truth or this moment, enlightenment, your true self, whatever definition you want to give it, if you experience it, then what? So that's where we get to function. How does truth function in my life from moment to moment? By the way, if you're just joining us, welcome to this live stream, Applying Zen Wisdom to Everyday Life. We're looking at this Kongan Doksang's bowls. We talked about this teaching, which is very important because that's going to connect to how do we approach the situation. So, by the way, WWSF is the whole world is a single flower. It's a collection of 365 kongans for everyday life. And when we get into function or the function of our true selves, the function of enlightenment, the function of wisdom, again, we can talk about it in many different ways. We have to look at the situation that we are in right now, is it clear? And what is our relationship to the situation? Sometimes in our minds, we get hooked on some idea about ourselves. Maybe I could say, I'm a father. But at this very moment, I am not. And that's hard to imagine because whatever we think about what we are or who we are is just thinking. We are many different things in every moment. So if we understand our relationship to the situation in this moment, then function can appear by itself. So the first question is, what was the last word? So if we go back one day, Doksang Zen master came into the Dharma room carrying his bowls. The housemaster Sobang said, "Old master, the bell has not been rung and the drum has not been struck. Where are you going carrying your bowls?" At this, Doksang returned to the master's room. So Sobang told the head monk, Amdu, what happened? And Amdu said, "Great Master Doksang does not understand the last word." So this is really important. There's a lot going on here, and it started with, it's hard to say because it could be the housemaster, which we'll get back later. But usually in Zen temples, and I can't verify this, I can only talk about my experience in Zen centers and monasteries in the Quantum School of Zen. But when we go for a meal, we have our bowls and we take them to the Dharma room. That's where we do our sitting, chanting, all of that stuff. And we have our meal together. And in our tradition, there's 4 bowls and there's some kind of ceremonial style for the meals. It's mostly a mindfulness practice. But this is interesting because Doksang went to the Dharma room with his bowls, but there was no signal for the meal. That's why the housemaster was kind of confused. "Master, the bell hasn't been rung, the drum hasn't been struck. Where are you going carrying your bowls?" And here was the mistake. Doksang didn't say anything. He just left. Have you ever done that before? Somebody's confronting you, let's say a spouse, a friend, a coworker. They're confronting you and you just walk off. I'm sure we've all done that. I've done that. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it has a natural result because this housemaster is now confused. What was that? Was that some special teaching he was giving me? Maybe the Zen master's going senile. So at this point, Doksang is very old. So that's why the housemaster went to the head monk because he was confused. Why did he do this? So the housemaster went to the head monk. Head monk just said, "Oh, the old master does not understand the last word." That means he does not understand correct function. So we talked about primary point, so the experience before thinking. We talked about perceiving the truth. And then how does that truth function? So if you perceive the truth of someone's hunger, what do? I mean, you could probably give them a hug. It's very nice. But it's not connecting to the situation or the relationship at that moment. So this head monk said, "Yeah, this master doesn't understand his correct function." This is what the last word is. Michael, yes, sometimes I just leave because I'm afraid of my anger. But I realized just leaving didn't help. Sometimes You just have to be honest about that. So maybe saying, right now, I know that I may not be helpful because of anger. So can I get back to you and then leave? Right? This is where we have skillful means. If we're just leaving, I guess it's better than getting angry and beating someone up, maybe. It can create a confusing situation. So we can always make it clear. So remember, the clear situation, clear relationship, clear function. So the first question is, then what is the last word? That means, then what is the correct situation? If the master didn't understand the correct situation, what is the correct situation regarding this whole story? So that's the first question. Very important. Second, this is very important. What did do? Now, do was the head monk whisper in the master's ear. So if we look back at the story, the head monk told the housemaster the master does not understand his correct function. Of course, it's a temple. Rumors go around. The Zen master Duksong hears about this, about what the head monk said, so he's angry. Michael, yes, being generous with the truth. That would be helpful. Thank you. So yeah, this master's angry. So he goes or calls for the head monk. And when he sees the head monk, Zen master Doksong is like, do you not approve of me? Yelling. And then the head monk whispered something in the master's ear. And now Doksong is relieved. So what did the head monk whisper in the master's ear? This is really important. Now, I've been in this situation quite often. Do you not approve of me? So when I pointed out the teaching of primary point, truth, and function, some practices can point to just maybe one of these. You know, there are some practices where maybe you go out and sit in the forest and your mind becomes the universe. That's your job. I don't have that kind of life where I live, but that's possible. There's some traditions, spiritual practices that only point to truth. Maybe you perceive the truth of someone's hunger. A lot of people don't even see the truth. Again, they see their own idea about what they think the truth is. So going back to, all of us have some kind of filter, even if it's a Zen filter. So take it away. So if we look at this question, what did do whisper in the master's ear? I have heard in some traditions, you can just respond by going, pss, 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 right? Because that's the truth. He whispered in the master's ear, but will that really help our lives? Next time somebody's angry at you, maybe they ask, do you not approve? Try going and see what happens. So we have to go back to the situation. What is our relationship to the situation? And what is the function that's appropriate at that moment? So this is a very big question. You can't get away with pss, 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 pss. We must respond. How can we first deal with his anger? He's very angry. Do you not approve? And then next, how do we make the situation clear? Because one thing that happens too is people, master's angry. Everybody gets angry. I'm sorry, master. Sorry you're angry. That's not enough. We still have to make the situation clear, point out the situation clearly. Otherwise, we get into this kind of spiritual bypassing where we just ignore the truth. We don't take care of the situation in the moment, which just creates more confusion? It's very important questions. It's probably one of the most important questions here. So, third question was, how was the master's speech different from before? I think we need to look at, again, what happened in the story. So the next day on the rostrum, making his Dharma speech, Doksang was really different from before. Amdu went to the front of the Dharma room, laughed loudly, clapped his hands, and said, "Great joy! The old master has understood the last word. From now on, nobody can check him." So the question is, how was the master's speech different from before? So we got to know what his speech was in the beginning. Where was this mistake? And if his speech at that moment was different from that, then what is it? So again, we're making the situation clear. All right. Fourth question. If you were Doksang and Sobong asked you, "Where are you going carrying your bowls?" how would you answer? Because none of this would have even started if Zen Master Doksang just responded to the house master. And this is really about all of us, human beings, all of us make mistakes. But usually we pretend they didn't happen, or we pretend to push it away just so it can go away. We know that it usually doesn't go away. It just creates more confusion in our lives and the lives around us. So if we were the Zen master, what could we say? It's not about being clever and coming up with some Zen speech. Again, I think that's ignoring the truth, ignoring the situation. Again, spiritual bypassing. We're seeing the world or dealing with the world through some view. And often it can be a Zen view or a meditation view or whatever you practice. So take it away. So we have to make our situation clear. So remember earlier I mentioned that Doksang is very old at the time. So if you were Doksang, how could you respond to this house master? So Michael, we talked about, let's see. Yes, sometimes I just leave because I'm afraid of my anger, but I realized just leaving didn't help. Then yes, being generous with the truth, that would help. So acknowledging that, I do that quite often, especially if I don't sleep very well and there's a kind of a challenging situation my kids want me to deal with. Instead of going off on them or pretending that I'm going to try to help, which I usually end up making more of a mess, I deal with the truth of my condition. Hey, Miles, Ella, I'm really sorry. I didn't sleep well very night. So that means I don't have the capacity right now to respond to what's happening right now. Being clear about our condition, being clear about the situation. I will get back to you so we can clarify this. Something like that. Okay. So again, this all is coming back to taking away these dusts that are clouding our mind, perceiving the truth in this moment, understanding the situation, our relationship, and then boom, action can appear by itself. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is the live stream, Applying Zen Wisdom to Everyday Life. Also, if anybody has any questions about Zen, meditation, practice, any kind of question, put it in the chat there. We have a little more time left. So this question number 4 is very difficult. How can you respond to this house master? human relationship koan, as you can tell. Now, there's a bonus question. You won't find it in The Whole World's a Single Flower. But I was asked this question first, I believe, by Zen Master Wu Bong, who passed away some time ago. And this bonus question is, if you were the house master, then how could you have responded to Zen Master Doksang? So let's go back to the beginning of the story. One day, Doksang came into the Dharma room carrying his bowls. The housemaster, Sobang, said, "Old master, the bell has not yet been rung and the drum has not yet been struck. Where are you going carrying your bowls?" At this, Doksang returned to the master's room. So that's interesting. Again, if we look back at the situation, then what is the relationship at that moment? So if you were the housemaster, a young monastic, and your teacher, the Zen master, comes to this Dharma room for a meal with his bowls, and the bell has not been rung, the drum has not been struck, how would you respond? Because the way it's written here, it's almost like the bell hasn't been rung, the drum hasn't been struck. Where are you going carrying your bowls? Like, where are you going, dummy? Even though it doesn't say that, but the tone, and again, the skillful words are important here. So again, if you were the housemaster, how could you have responded to the Zen master? Skillfully. Remember, Doksang is very old at this time. You have a clear relationship with this Zen master at that moment. So what could you do? So these are the 5 questions we ask. And it might be different, like I said, from if you practice koans and other traditions. Because like I said before, maybe some koans are just pointing to becoming one. Maybe koans are pointing to just reflecting truth. But one thing Zen Master Sungsong wanted is really, how does Zen practice, all of it, including Kongan practice, how can that actually help our lives? How can we develop this wisdom so we can act skillfully? So when I mentioned about just whispering in the master's ear, that's not going to work in our lives. But becoming one or intimate with what's in front of us is very important, because this is where compassion can appear. Maybe the motivation to actually act in this moment. It's a really, really important kongan. So any questions, comments? Could be about anything, not just this kongan. Anything that's been on your mind lately before we go? I thank you all for being here, by the way, joining this live stream. Most of you know this live stream is recorded. So you can go back, if you're just joining late, you can go back and watch the beginning of this. Also, I do post the audio podcast in my Patreon. So if you are a supporter on Patreon, I will probably have this up hopefully by today, otherwise on Monday. I haven't told you all too. I am leaving with my son Miles to tomorrow, actually, very early in the morning. So I won't be I'll be on the road most of the day. tomorrow. Let's see. Michael, yes. Let's see. Okay, I already read that one. Cesare, thanks a lot, Jason. You are welcome. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Please feel to reach out too. There's a lot of things happening right now. I'm trying to simplify my teaching, also my YouTube channel. So most of the content I have is on my YouTube channel, this channel that you're watching this right now. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to that. I've been meeting a lot of people for one-to-one sessions. If you want to kind of dive in deeper about your practice, meditation practice, and also Kongans. A lot of you know that you can join me most Sunday mornings with Empty Gate Zen Center. We do an online practice where I meet people one-to-one. I will not be there this Sunday, so don't plan on seeing me there. I will be away with my son. Let's see. Also, if you are in the Patreon community, the second Monday of the month, I meet people for a one-to-one session. So it's, again, a good chance to connect, talk about your practice, answer any questions you may have, and work on Kongans. Also, I teach in the Quantum Zen Online Sangha. I'm all around. It's hard not to not find me. But if you do go to my website, jasonquinzen.com, on the bottom of the homepage, I have kind of a calendar of events so you can see what I'm doing, where I'm going. John, soccer football tournament. No, Miles and I are going to Las Vegas to see one of his favorite musical artists. Can anyone take a guess? There's a little story behind it, actually. I might maybe talk about it in one of my videos. I know also in Patreon, I have this idea to start recording more kind of personal stories or just kind of the day in, day out kind of things. I wouldn't call it behind the scenes. Again, check that out if you're on Patreon. Stay tuned for all that stuff. Cesare says, Las Vegas, wow. Blue Man Group. It's actually a rap artist. All right, that gives you another clue. Let's see who can guess it first. Also, again, I want to thank Michael for your super sticker. Everything everybody contributes keeps all of this going. It takes time to record videos, to do video editing, to do live streams, to meet people for a one-on-one. So there you go. Cesare says Eminem. Hey, that's not a bad guess. Helena, thank you, Jason. Really appreciate your teachings. I have been watching your old hiking videos lately, so still enjoy them very much. I'm glad you said that, Helena. I have some idea too. I don't have as much time as I did to go hiking, but when I do record these kinds of things, I'm going to put it in the Patreon community. So again, if you want to see all of these things, join us on Patreon. And the reason why I made a video on Patreon about this too is I noticed on my YouTube channel, looking at analytics, I'm just seeing where people spend their time and trying to just provide content that's very useful in a short amount of time we have in this life. But I noticed on the hiking videos, most people, not all, but most people would skip all that stuff, the driving, the hiking, and they would just jump right into the talk. Now, I personally love to share the scenery and kind of the area I live in, because I know I do have students from around the world and who are curious about the environment. So I still want to share these things, but I've decided to do it on Patreon. So it's kind of like the behind the scene videos. Does that make sense? Even Cesare said, I like the scenery. I think most of you who've been with me since the very beginning, well, I've always supported everything I've done. So yeah, Patreon, stay connected to Patreon. Hey, Eric, thank you so much for your super sticker. This makes it all happen. I really appreciate your support. Helena, I enjoyed the scenery too. Good. So I will continue sharing that. I am going to record clips. So this is my idea. Miles and I are leaving very early tomorrow morning. So I'm going to record some clips of the trip and maybe surprise you of who we're going to see. And I'll put that in the Patreon community. Does that sound good? If it sounds good, let me know. Other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for your support. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for being here, asking questions, making all of this come together. I really appreciate you all. Okay, everyone, have a clear day.